see how he feels. And so it's one of those things where it's a wait and see what he says and what our medical team says.
Do you know exactly what happened to cause the soreness? Was it a single instant or just kind of came up?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, I'm sorry.
No, I don't know.
And then how is Steve doing? Is it kind of counted out for the rest of the series, or could he come back soon, or how is he feeling?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna just keep coaching until they tell me.
Yeah.
Until they tell me not to. So, but we're in constant communication. Yesterday, last night, this morning.
You said that Otto did some stuff. Can you elaborate? Like, was it shooting? Was it agility stuff? What exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, I wasn't tough part. I'm not watching him. I'm watching the whole team. So I think he did some agility stuff. I think I saw him over there with our medical team doing some agility stuff. I think he did a little shooting, but I'm not sure. I know he was out there, and I'm pretty sure he did some agility stuff before. Yeah.
And then what are just some? I know that you've been an acting head coach before for this team, but what are some things that you learned in the first two games that can help you, for your third time at the helm?
Well, this is for me. This is a little different than before. I think I said this a little bit, but prior to this year, Steve asked me to be the defensive coordinator this year, and so a lot of times during our practices and our shoot arounds, we're split. The defense is at one end, the offense at the other end. So we're prior to this year, I did both. I helped with the defense and I helped with the offense, and so I floated. So I had a better feel of what we're doing offensively. So I know in these last two games, I've learned a lot of what we're really trying to focus on offensively. That's the biggest thing. Me having a crash course on that side of the floor, just because defensively my attention is not as much on the offensive end.
You said that you and Steve are in constant communication. What's sort of the nature of how often he is in contact with you? When is it usually FaceTime, Zoom? What's sort of how frequent is it, or what is he contacting about usually?
No, we utilize technology. So we're actually, it's not Zoom, it's on Ring Central. Is that the right? Okay. Ring Central, baby. So Ring Central, and then on the phone too.
How many? Oh, it's too specific. How many times a day is he contacting you?
Oh, shit. I don't count, but we probably talk 2 to 3 times a day, maybe.
And just a slightly different question. Draymond said on his podcast that with Ja out, he feels like you guys have to start from scratch a little bit in terms of game planning. Has that sort of been a challenge for you guys in these last few games?
Well, I wouldn't. Yes, we have to look at the series, excuse me, a little differently, but our keys are still kind of the same, especially on the defense end of the floor. They did a heck of a job getting out in transition. But part of that is another key of ours. We want to win the possession game, and that means we got to keep them off the glass. We have to get 50-50 balls. But part of winning the possession game is not turning it over. And we turned it over quite a bit, which affected our main key is our transition defense. They got out on us. So, again, transition defense is still the same. Winning the possession game defensively is still the same. And then we got to have an awareness of Desmond Bane. He got loose a little bit on us in the last game. So all those things are still high on our list. But obviously, with Adams on the floor, there are some things that we have to do to adjust and or bring up to make sure that we're all on the same page.
On the topic of keeping Memphis off the glass, do you feel like Steven Adams has kind of changed the complexity of this series a little bit?
His size has been a factor. And, let's face it, like I said this a million times already, going 25, they went 20-5 during the regular season out. So there's still a game, and when you play at this point in the season, the top 8 teams that are left, everybody, no matter look at I think Milwaukee's up 3-2 on Boston, and they're missing their all-star, and Chris Middleton, their experienced all-star. But they're Milwaukee's still going to be tough to beat, even though they're missing Chris Middleton. So we have to lock in and understand what Steven Adams does bring to them, which obviously is a presence, especially a presence on the offensive glass, and he's a great screener. And we have to make sure that we're aware of those things and try to attack it the right way.
And Mike, from what you were able to see, what jumped out to you with Kevon's day-to-day this season that enabled him to play all 82?
Man, he just his readiness, and what I mean by that is his preparation. His preparation's off the charts. He's been like that from day one. Even if he wasn't playing, he's getting his body right. And I think when you try to get your body right like that, which was amazing because he's obviously a young guy when I first got here because he came in the league early. But if you have the understanding of how to get your body right like he does, then obviously it helps you with your mental approach. And when those two things are in front of you like they are with Loon, it gives you a chance to be ready to go for 82 games, which is tough in this league today.
Yeah, he's always put in the work and accepted roles. But given his injury history over, the beginning of his career, could you see this season of him coming of being able to play every game?
No, again, I go back to you give him credit first for his preparation, the way he's taken care. I mean, he's really embraced it. He hadn't. I always think there's three levels to accepting your fate or your role or whatever in life, or in whatever you do. You can either reject it, which or fight it, which isn't good. You can accept it. Sometimes if you accept it, you're like, okay, I know I got this, or I got to deal with this, but I don't feel like doing it today. And so you won't put in the work or the time, or you can embrace it. If you embrace something, in my opinion, that means you're just all in on trying to do what you can, not only to reverse it 180 degrees, but to also maintain it at its best level on a daily basis. And that's what Loon has done. And then, on top of that, you give our medical team some credit too, because they've done a fantastic job at least guiding him or giving him different choices to make when it comes to taking care of his health.
After Game 5, your message to the team was that it was only one game. And some of the players talked about, just forget about this one and put our focus on Game 6. But would it be beneficial to maybe use that Game 5 loss, because it was such a big margin of it, as motivation for to prove something almost?
Well, the first thing is when we say it's just one game, that doesn't mean we're going to go into the next game, hopefully with the same mindset, doing the same thing. We say it's just one game because what are you going to do? You can't sit there and get down or beat yourself up. We have to get ready to play Game 6. And so our spirit and all that, our mind has to be clear, and then we have to utilize the things that we didn't do well, which we did. We watched film offensively. We watched film defensively. We changed some of our rules and we made some adjustments. So all that stuff is there, and I said it in my press conference, within a span of three days or something like that, there were 3 or 4 games where teams lost by 30 plus points. And again, if you sit there and you pout, you think too hard or too long about it, you don't think about the positives that you did, and then the adjustments you need to make to where you can play better, you're in trouble. This is not a time to let that dark cloud hang over your head. And at the end of the day, we know that to get to this point in the season, it's hard, and we expect it to be hard. And the only thing you can do is attack it head on, embrace it, and it's helping us get better.
Coach, a couple for you. With the unknown status of Porter and obviously not having Andre all series, how does that change your wing and big man rotation moving forward?
Well, obviously we have a couple of different ideas that we'll do. We feel like we can go big, we can go small. There's a lot of options. It's going to be because, Otto most times came off the bench for us, so it'll be the flow of the game. If we feel like we need to go bigger, we may go to Belly. If we feel like we need to get more athletic, we may go to JK. If we feel like we want maybe more shooting out there, we can go D-League or whoever. I mean, so we feel like we're deep at this point for a reason, and we have the utmost confidence in anybody we throw out on the floor.
And then you had told us before Game 5 that there was a very productive film session going into that game where the veterans stepped up and you felt good about having a solution.
Yeah.
So it obviously didn't work. Like what's changed in the last 48 hours where you feel better about that specific topic going into tonight?
Well, the biggest thing we felt it worked in the first quarter, and because our whole emphasis basically was, if you go back the first 6 minutes of every game we play, we turn the ball over at a very, very high rate. And if you look at Game 5, I don't think our first turnover came until about the 5.5 mark. And then we had a second one maybe at the 3-minute mark. And then our last two were under. So it worked to a certain degree because we really stressed the first 6 minutes of the ball game. But then once it happened at the end of that first, it just kind of snowballed. And on top of the turnovers, what impacted us in that last game was their offensive rebounding. For the first time this entire series, they kicked our behind on the glass. And so if we're not making shots, but we're turning the ball over at that rate, plus giving up offensive rebounds, that's not a good formula for us.
You were kind of talking about some adjustments just then. And yesterday you talked about how you need to better prepare kind of for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Steven Adams. You want to see Draymond let it fly. You said, what are some other adjustments that you really want to see either from individuals or team-wide perspective?
You think Taylor gonna watch this if I tell you all my adjustments? No. Okay, then let me pull it out. Taylor, we're going to. No, that's for us. We went over it, and we'll try to utilize what we felt didn't work well for us in our last game. We'll try to utilize that this coming game. Yeah. Thank you. We'll have 1 minute here shortly. Thank y'all very much.